He is totally obsessed with looks. That's because he has a very handsome dad and a mother who is cool as hell. So ever since he started kindergarten, he's had a huge soft spot for pretty girls. Every day, he's either charming his female teachers or stealing kisses from his classmates. This gives his mother, Sunan, a major headache. Looking at her naughty, rebellious son, Sunan felt like her head was about to explode. She immediately gave him a dose of tough love. Even her husband, who was just watching the drama, didn't escape. You little brat. You don't learn anything good. You're just like your playboy father. Back then, he was exactly like you, constantly tangling with so many girls. If your mother wasn't so great, your dad would have run off a long time ago. Listening to all this, Yang Muli couldn't even defend himself. When was he ever tangling with girls? Clearly, they were the ones clinging to him. It turns out, back when Yang Muli worked at the university, he had an unforgettable encounter with Sunan. That day, Sunan was doing her usual routine, checking the students' dress code at the school gate. But just as she finished scolding a student for not wearing a uniform, she was drawn to the commotion nearby. When she got closer, she saw a strange man in the alley, grabbing one of her students. Seeing the girl's pained expression, Sunan lost her temper instantly. Without a word, she rushed forward and shoved the man aside. Checking on the girl immediately, seeing that the girl was okay, Sunan finally breathed a sigh of relief. Meanwhile, the man who had just been shoved, feeling his soaked back, couldn't help but mutter how cold it was. Sunan was still fuming. Seeing that the man didn't seem to realize his mistake, she snapped, "You creep. How dare you bully our students? You're lucky it wasn't boiling water. What? Did you expect warm water and body wash too?" At that moment, a nearby student saw the teacher had misunderstood and rushed to explain. "Actually, I twisted my ankle while coming down the stairs. This guy was just trying to help me." Hearing this, Sunan froze. It was then she realized she had totally misunderstood a good person. She was so embarrassed, she just wanted to crawl into a hole. As she calmed down to apologize to the man, she caught a clear look at his handsome face. Sunan was instantly stunned. Old memories began to flood back. She never would have guessed that the boy who defined her youth would meet her again like this. Seeing the teacher's blank reaction, Yang Muli couldn't help but speak up, asking how she planned to fix this mess. Hearing his voice, Sunan slowly realized Yang Muli had probably forgotten her long ago. Well, it had been 7 years. He wasn't that 17-year-old boy anymore. Forget it. She just wanted to get out of there. The next second, she apologized to Yang Muli and took off her jacket. "Use my gym jacket to cover those water stains for now." Before Yang Muli could even refuse, Sunan draped it over him. But as soon as she finished dressing him, she immediately regretted it. She saw her jacket was way too short on him. "I'm sorry. You'd better take it off. The clothes are fine, but this speech in my hand, I have to read it soon." But now the words are all blurred. Hearing this, Sunan took the script to check it herself. She started frowning as she scanned the pages. What she didn't know was that Yang Muli was secretly watching her the whole time. Seeing her looking so troubled, Yang Muli struggled to hide a smirk. Then, he put on a difficult face again, taking the script back from Sunan. "Never mind, I'll just figure it out myself. I know you meant well. But next time, please make sure you have the facts straight before acting." Being scolded like that by him, she quickly nodded, looking very guilty. Seeing that everything was settled, Sunan quickly grabbed the student nearby and fled the scene. After taking the student with the sprained ankle to the clinic, she returned to the office. As soon as she entered, she saw Ms. Zhang and the principal arguing about something. Her curiosity got the best of her, so she immediately asked her best friend what was going on. "You wouldn't believe it. There's a new teacher who just arrived, and the principal already made him the lead teacher for the honors class. That's why Ms. Zhang is so upset." "Principal, that new teacher is only 25, with such little experience. How can he lead the top-tier class?" "Ms. Zhang, he might be new here, but you should know. At his previous school, he had a 100% graduation rate. As for top universities, he achieved an incredible 90% admission rate." As soon as those words were spoken, every teacher in the room was blown away. They couldn't believe that such results came from a guy who just turned 25. Before they could even process the shock, the office door swung open the very next second. When she saw it was Yang Muli, Sunan felt like her world was crashing down. Could he be the new teacher the principal was talking about? She scrambled to hide her face, hoping he wouldn't notice her. But fate has a funny way of working. Yang Muli walked straight up to her and even greeted her. Soon, it was time for the university's opening ceremony. At the start, the principal invited Yang Muli to give a speech as the faculty representative. The moment Yang Muli stepped onto the stage, the female students in the crowd began screaming that they wanted to join his class. Sitting in the front row, Sunan witnessed this wild scene and couldn't help but sigh. Yang Muli is still as charming as ever. Then, she thought back to how she'd ruined his script that morning and felt incredibly guilty. But as the speech went on, Yang Muli was perfectly eloquent. He went on and on, effortlessly, without ever reaching for his script. Witnessing this, Sunan finally realized she'd been played like a fiddle by this jerk. Men are all liars, she thought. After the speech ended, Sunan ignored him completely. Later, at Yang Muli's welcome dinner, many of the teachers were celebrating his return to his alma mater. Only she and her best friend sat aside, whispering to each other. When Qing Yue heard Sunan mention that Yang Muli was her first love, she got excited instantly and couldn't help but shout it out. Everyone's attention was drawn by the sudden outburst. Some teachers even gave knowing smirks. "First love? Who's first love? Miss Qing? Oh, you misheard. We were just talking about cooking. Since she clearly didn't want to talk, the others didn't press her. Qingyue, did you do that on purpose? Sorry. But wait, how did you guys break up? It's like he doesn't even remember you now. Actually, there was no breakup, because we never actually dated. Strictly speaking, I guess you could say he rejected me. We didn't even say goodbye. As soon as she finished speaking, Sunan felt a pang of jealousy. Not far away, Yang Muli was chatting with a waitress. Seeing this, Qingyue couldn't help but snicker. Before they could gossip any further, Ms. Zhang interrupted them. What are you two whispering about? Not sharing with the rest of us. That's a penalty drink right there. Ms. Qing, you owe us too. You didn't even show up to the last party. Qingyue originally wanted to refuse, but seeing Ms. Zhang pulling rank as her senior to pressure her, Qingyue had no choice but to take the glass. Seeing her friend's reluctant expression, Sunan snatched the glass, ready to drink it for her. Ms. Zhang didn't stop her. Instead, she began praising her high alcohol tolerance. Meanwhile, nearby, Yang Muli noticed what was happening. He couldn't help but scoff to himself. Why is she always playing the hero for others? She's clearly pushing herself too hard. Sure enough, after 2 glasses, Sunan reached her limit. Her friend begged her to stop. But Sunan's head was spinning, and she wasn't listening. She looked at the drink, about to take another gulp, but just as it reached her lips, someone snatched the glass away. Wow, it's lively over here. I thought this was my welcome party. Why is nobody toasting with me, Ms. Zhang? Ms. Zhang was a sly old fox. She immediately got the hint from Mr. Yang. She downed a glass herself and made a tactful exit. Yang Muli was about to leave after settling the matter, but the next second, the drunk Sunan grabbed and pinched his cheeks. You jerk, can you stop using your good looks to make everyone fall for you? The other teachers watching this instantly turned into a crowd ready to spill the tea. Ms. Sun, this is the second time today you've attacked me. Seeing the situation, Qingyue quickly pulled her clumsy friend away. I'm so sorry, Mr. Yang. Sunan doesn't usually drink. Please don't take it personally. Hearing that name, Yang Muli was slightly stunned. Her name is Sunan? Is there a problem, Mr. Yang? I had a junior in high school also named Sunan. What a coincidence. Sun is a rare surname, but I didn't go to high school around here. Hearing the girl's answer, Yang Muli just smiled. Yeah, what a coincidence. It was late at night by the time the party ended. To throw Yang Muli off the scent, Sunan intentionally sang a bunch of songs off-key. Since Yang Muli was going the same way, the task of escorting her home fell on him. Looking at the fast-asleep Sunan beside him, Yang Muli recalled a time back in high school when Sunan got into a fight. He had even lectured her back then, but now, he wasn't sure if she was the same girl. A moment later, the driver arrived at her apartment building. Sunan saw Yang Muli getting out of the car and assumed he was going to walk her up. She was about to refuse, but then Yang Muli gave her that innocent smile again. Sunan didn't want to deal with him, so she headed straight for her door. But after a few steps, Yang Muli called out behind her, "See you tomorrow." Sunan initially thought it was just a casual remark, but once home, she felt something was off. See you tomorrow? Isn't tomorrow Saturday? I'm not even going to school. How would we meet? Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Yang Muli was catching up with an old friend. Lao Wan, did you say you ran into Sunan at the alumni reunion a few days ago? Lao Wan suddenly looked intrigued. Wow, Yang, you're a loyal one, aren't you? You're still hung up on her? She didn't show up to the reunion. She doesn't keep in touch with anyone. I ran into her at the airport during a business trip last week. She said she's living abroad now. She was holding a ticket to the UK that day. Hearing that she was living abroad, Yang Muli's heart sank. She's changed so much. If her friend hadn't called out her name, I might not even have recognized her. 现在真实的美人你是没见，不过说实话，当年她还不是拒进了。她现在不在国内，就忘了她吧。杨木里刚想回话，却被身后搬家公司的人打乱。杨先生，这是最后一扇了。好的，辛苦你了。杨木里见自己家还没收拾，当即就与老万告了别。而此刻，在另一边的神安正悠闲地吃着零食。这时，自己的房门却响了起来。神安见是自己的外卖来了，很是兴奋。可他刚打开门，外面却响起了雷声。这声音可把芊芊吓了一跳，当即就向着门外跑去。神安刚追出来，就见他跑到了对面的房间。神安原本上身，问邻居自己去他房间招猫的，但敲了半天，始终没人回应。于是他只能将脑袋踏了进去。可不看没事，一看吓一跳，只见芊芊此刻正在窗户上趴着。神安见芊芊有危险，当即也顾不了这么多，直接向着芊芊跑去。可刚过去，芊芊却又从他脑袋上跳到了一边。眼见这坏家伙要搞破坏，神安可气得不轻。没两下，芊芊就将邻居的书架拆散架了。眼看芊芊就要掉下来，神安赶忙将她抱入了怀中。可他并没有注意到头上散落的书籍，眼见就要砸在他身上。还好杨木里及时出现，将神安紧紧地护在了身前，这才化解了这场危机。神安感受着那湿漉漉的胸膛，一时还有些懵，他还忍不住上手摸了一把。在等他看清身旁男人的长相时，他瞬间就羞红了脸。他不明白杨木里为什么会在这。Young Muley clearly caught the confusion on her face. He smiled and explained that this was actually his place. He had just moved in yesterday. Listening to his explanation, Sunan finally understood why Young Muley said see you tomorrow to her last night. At this rate, they wouldn't just be seeing each other at school, but they'd be alone together here at home. too. At the thought of this, Sunan's face turned even redder. She immediately tried to leave. I'm so sorry, Mr. Yang, because my unruly cat ran into your place, and I was afraid he'd cause some damage. I let myself in without permission. I am deeply sorry, Mr. Yang. I'll put everything back where it belongs. If anything is broken, I'll take full responsibility for the cost. Okay then, I'll leave it to you. For the next while, the two of them organized the shelves together. The atmosphere was undeniably subtle, but when Sunan spotted a certain plushie, her eyes instantly lit up. This is the hidden gem from the cat dessert blind box. How did you get this? I've been looking for it everywhere. Facing her interrogation, Yang Muley just gave a playful smirk. I originally bought it for a friend, but I never got the chance to give it away. Seeing the gentle look in Yang Muley's eyes, Sunan felt a slight pang in her heart. Old, painful memories began to resurface. Something this cute. It must have been for someone very important. Was it for Xiao Yuning? Noticing her mood had suddenly dropped, Yang Muley tried to cheer her up. Miss Sun, do you really like this stuff? I might consider giving it to you instead. The moment he said that, Sunan let out an excited squeal. Her gloomy mood vanished instantly. Mr. Yang, are you serious? Seeing how easily she took the bait, Yang Muley flashed a mischievous grin. However, Miss Sun, I'm going to need a little favor in return. 就在十难疑惑，杨茉莉会需要自己帮什么忙时，一个大胆的想法浮现在了脑海。难道是以身相许？就在石难想入非非之际，杨茉莉竟从卧室抱了一沓厚厚的表格走了出来。看着这么多表格，石难整个人都不好了。自己上学时最不好的就是数学，这让他做表格还不如杀了他呢。就在石难一筹莫展之际，身旁的芊芊竟叫了起来。正当他疑惑芊芊这是怎么了时，就见杨茉莉身旁探出了一个小脑袋。杨老师，这是你的猫吗？它叫什么？五人听着这熟悉的名字，石难的思绪不由回到了高中时期。他记得当时自己与杨茉莉救助了一窝流浪猫，还给每只猫起了名字，但因为当时资金有限，他不得不将它们送去了宠物店。在当神安攒够钱，准备赎这些小家伙时，其中的一只却被人买走了。他本以为这辈子不会再见到五人，却没想到他一直在杨茉莉身边。次日清晨，阳光透过窗户洒在了学校的楼道内。杨茉莉还是如往常一样去学校代课，但当他走到一个拐角处时，就见陈安正一个人费力地搬着砖，而他们班的同学则在打篮球，这让杨茉莉很是不解。沈老师，怎么就你一个人在搬运器材啊？其他学生嘛，之前教啊，他们来这又偷懒贪玩，有监督他们的，那会功夫我自己都做完了。听着这一解释，杨茉莉忍不住调侃道：“看来沈老师的大力牛排饭没白吃。”沈安见他调侃自己，本想把他叫过来帮忙的，可等他再回头，杨茉莉却早已没了踪影。Typical, men are so unreliable. Meanwhile, young Muley had made his way over to the court. As he approached, he overheard the students gossiping. Hey, do you think it's okay that we ditched and left the she-wolf to clean up alone? Don't sweat it. She loves making us run laps, doesn't she? Let her work. Before he could finish, young Muley's voice cut through the air. Wow, you guys really have a bone to pick with your teacher. Seeing it was Mr. Yang, the students immediately chickened out. But young Muley didn't punish them. Instead, he made them a bet. How about a game of basketball? If you win, I'll cancel one math quiz. If I win, you go help Miss Sun, and you apologize to her. The students laughed, thinking it was an easy win, and immediately agreed to the terms. A short while later, every single student was standing outside the equipment room. Sunan was totally confused by the sight. After asking around, she found out that young Muley had schooled these brats, forcing them to come and help her out. As they say, many hands make light work. The room was spotless in no time. Seeing how much the kids adored young Muley, Sunan couldn't help but feel a bit down. Ever since she'd known him, he had always been the popular one. Everyone, guys and girls alike, loved him. She, on the other hand, was the total opposite. Just then, young Muley noticed her gloomy mood. He called out to her, challenging her to a one-on-one. Loser buys dinner. Sunan didn't hesitate for a second and accepted the challenge. When the students heard the news, they excitedly rushed back to the court to watch. Sunan was an athlete by training, so her basketball skills were top tier. But just as she tried to drive past him for a layup, the ball was suddenly stripped away by young Muley. Effortless flick of his wrist, young Muley sank a perfect three-pointer, while the students cheered for his victory. Sunan noticed something was wrong. Immediately, she pushed through the crowd to check his arm. Your synovitis is flaring up again. You need to get to a hospital for a checkup. Does it hurt right here? Instead of answering her, young Muley just stared at her, asking over and over how she knew his condition had returned. Only she knows about this injury. I got this while protecting a certain idiot. How do you know about it, Miss Sun? Aren't you going to explain yourself? Sensing her cover was about to be blown, Sunan tried to make a run for it, but young Muley didn't give her the chance, pulling her firmly into his arms. Sunan knew his personality well. He wouldn't let go until she gave him a straight answer. So, she made up a lie about how she just happened to know a lot about medical symptoms, hoping to brush it all off. But young Muley just gave a cold, skeptical laugh at her excuse. You just happen to know the exact name of a condition just by glancing at it? Fine. Whatever. Seeing she wasn't ready to come clean, he didn't push her further. He chose to walk away instead. Nearby, the commotion caught Qin Yue's attention, and she rushed over to her best friend to find out what happened. Sunin, did Mr. Yang get hurt? But no matter what she asked, Sunin remained silent, noticing her staring at Yang Muli with another female teacher. Qin Yue seemed to realize something. She flashed a smug, knowing look. That's Miss Chu Yao. I heard they were alumni back in college. Looking at them now, it seems they have quite a history. Look, Miss Chu is practically all over him. Sure enough, before she could even finish, Sunin couldn't just sit there anymore. She rushed straight toward Yang Muli. Just as Chu Yao's hand was about to touch him, Sunin stepped right between them. Without a word, she grabbed Yang Muli and hauled him off to the hospital, leaving a stunned Chu Yao standing there all alone. It was already afternoon by the time he finished his exams. Even though the chart said it was just a simple muscle strain, Sunin still felt uneasy. She wanted to drag him off for even more tests. Her uncle, who had been watching all of this, saw how stressed his niece was and tried to gently reassure her. I've been a doctor for 20 years, kiddo. Trust me, he's fine. Hearing her uncle say that, she finally let out a sigh of relief. But the second she stepped out of the office, her phone started blowing up. When she checked it, she saw it was full of gossip between her uncle and aunt. Sunin thought, oh, I'm so screwed. Now all her relatives knew. She had brought a guy to the hospital for treatment. Before she could even process it, Yang Muli couldn't hold back anymore. He leaned in close and snatched her phone away. Miss Sun, don't you have anything to say to me? Seeing the serious look on his face, Sunin immediately folded. Fine. Yes, I'm Sunin. The same Sunin you knew in high school. As soon as he heard that, Yang Muli became visibly emotional. Then why did you lie and say you weren't? Why act like you didn't even know me? Because I didn't want to. The two of them got into a heated argument right then and there. After that, they gave each other the cold shoulder. Until today, when they were both called into the principal's office. Mr. Yang, Miss Sun, you were both on leave during the last meeting. We have a lot of school activities this semester, so we're assigning each homeroom teacher a subject teacher to help with the workload. All the other teachers were paired up last time, so you two will be a team for now. Also, Teachers' Day and the Arts Festival will share a joint performance. We teachers need to prepare and act as well. As for the specific details, you can check with your department heads later. Hearing this news, Sunin had mixed feelings. How could it be such a coincidence? Seeing the reluctant look on Sunan's face, Yang Muli felt a bit slighted. Wow, do you really find me that annoying? No. As the days went by, the gala performance finally began to take shape. The campus was buzzing with teachers and students, nervously prepping their acts. But Sunin seemed unusually relaxed. When Qin Yue saw her ridiculous outfit, she burst out laughing. Sunin, is the PE department performing the tree spirit moving bricks? Facing her friend's mockery, Sunin didn't get angry. She just explained she was moving props. Since she couldn't carry them all at once, she figured she'd just wear the costume. Sunin, remember that gymnastics routine your team did last year on stage? It was actually better than the language arts choir. Before Qin Yue could finish, a song from nearby interrupted them. Up on the stage, Chu Yao was singing in a stunning gown, while Yang Muli played the violin beside her. Everyone in the gym was captivated by the beautiful music. They couldn't stop talking about what a perfect match the two were. But standing below the stage, for some reason, Sunin felt a pang of bitterness. Before she could figure out why she felt this way, she got a call from the prop team. Hearing that they needed the props immediately, Sunin started to panic. She tried to run them over, but after just a few steps, she tripped over her own clunky costume and hit the floor. Eventually, with the help of some other teachers, she managed to get back on her feet. After that little incident, Sunin decided she wanted to dress up a bit. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't pull off the same look as Chu Yao. So, she had to ask her best friend for help. When Qin Yue received the message, she thought it was sent to the wrong person. After double-checking, she finally believed it was actually from Sunin. Miss Sunin, did the sun rise in the west today? You're actually taking the initiative to dress up? Is this sudden change because of Yang Muli? The moment she said his name, Sunin spat out her drink in shock. Seeing her friend's reaction, Qin Yue immediately gave her a knowing smirk. I knew it. Even if he didn't recognize you, I feel like he's always been looking out for you. But what's been going on with you two lately? Things seem weird. He recognized me. At those words, Qin Yue practically jumped with excitement. I told you. Unless he's a total airhead, there was no way you could keep it a secret. He's not an airhead. He was really smart back in school, but I said some pretty mean things to him a few days ago. Once Sunin filled her best friend in on everything that had happened with Yang Muli, Qin Yue couldn't sit still. Why would you do that? That must have really hurt Mr. Yang's feelings. I guess I just couldn't face the me from back then. I didn't understand it much in high school, but my aunt told me that feeling was love, but I know I'm not the one in his heart. So I keep thinking, my unrequited feelings must look pretty ridiculous to him. Whenever I think about that, I feel so embarrassed. Hearing her friend's explanation, Qing Yue didn't say another word. She simply focused on carefully styling her hair. Sunan thought dressing up would be a breeze, but she hadn't counted on having to wear heels. Every step felt like she was about to twist an ankle. Behind her, some students spotted this teacher in a dress and couldn't help but whisper to their friends, "Wait, does that look like Ms. Sun from behind?" One of the boys immediately shot that idea down. "No way it's Ms. Sun. There's zero chance she'd ever wear a dress." All the other teachers were paired up last time, so you two will be a team for now. Also, Teachers' Day and the Arts Festival will share a joint performance. We teachers need to prepare and act as well. As for the specific details, you can check with your department heads later. Hearing this news, Sunan had mixed feelings. How could it be such a coincidence? Seeing the reluctant look on Sun-An's face, Yang Muley felt a bit slighted. Wow, do you really find me that annoying? No. As the days went by, the gala performance finally began to take shape. The campus was buzzing with teachers and students, nervously prepping their acts. But Sunan seemed unusually relaxed. When Qing Yue saw her ridiculous outfit, she burst out laughing. "Sunan, is the PE department performing the tree spirit moving bricks?" Facing her friend's mockery, Sunan didn't get angry. She just explained she was moving props. Since she couldn't carry them all at once, she figured she'd just wear the costume. "Sunan, remember that gymnastics routine your team did last year on stage? It was actually better than the language arts choir." Before Qing Yue could finish, a song from nearby interrupted them. Up on the stage, Chu Yao was singing in a stunning gown, while Yang Muley played the violin beside her. Everyone in the gym was captivated by the beautiful music. They couldn't stop talking about what a perfect match the two were. But standing below the stage, for some reason, Sunan felt a pang of bitterness. Before she could figure out why she felt this way, she got a call from the prop team. Hearing that they needed the props immediately, Sunan started to panic. She tried to run them over, but after just a few steps, she tripped over her own clunky costume and hit the floor. Eventually, with the help of some other teachers, she managed to get back on her feet. After that little incident, Sunan decided she wanted to dress up a bit. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't pull off the same look as Chu Yao. So, she had to ask her best friend for help. When Qing Yue received the message, she thought it was sent to the wrong person. After double-checking, she finally believed it was actually from Sunan. "Miss Sunan, did the sun rise in the west today? You're actually taking the initiative to dress up? Is this sudden change because of Yang Muley?" The moment she said his name, Sunan spat out her drink in shock. Seeing her friend's reaction, Qing Yue immediately gave her a knowing smirk. "I knew it. Even if he didn't recognize you, I feel like he's always been looking out for you. But what's been going on with you two lately? Things seem weird." He recognized me. At those words, Qing Yue practically jumped with excitement. "I told you. Unless he's a total airhead, there was no way you could keep it a secret. He's not an airhead. He was really smart back in school, but I said some pretty mean things to him a few days ago." Once Sunan filled her best friend in on everything that had happened with Yang Muley, Qing Yue couldn't sit still. "Why would you do that? That must have really hurt Mr. Yang's feelings. I guess I just couldn't face the me from back then. I didn't understand it much in high school, but my aunt told me that feeling was love, but I know I'm not the one in his heart. So I keep thinking, my unrequited feelings must look pretty ridiculous to him. Whenever I think about that, I feel so embarrassed." Hearing her friend's explanation, Qing Yue didn't say another word. She simply focused on carefully styling her hair. Sunan thought dressing up would be a breeze, but she hadn't counted on having to wear heels. Every step felt like she was about to twist an ankle. Behind her, some students spotted this teacher in a dress and couldn't help but whisper to their friends, "Wait, does that look like Ms. Sun from behind?" One of the boys immediately shot that idea down. "No way it's Ms. Sun. There's zero chance she'd ever wear a dress." "Mr. Sun, guys usually don't like aggressive girls, especially someone as gentle as Mr. Yang. So, just changing your clothes isn't enough. Even if it catches his attention now, he'll see through it sooner or later." Mr. Yang is a very upright man. He has no patience for fake people. "So, Mr. Sun, you'd be better off keeping your distance." Once she said that, Sunan finally caught her drift. Chu Yao saw him as a romantic rival, but he was no pushover. He immediately fired back. "Miss Chu, is that so? You were college classmates, but do you really know him? He might look harmless on the outside, but he was the Taekwondo club president in high school. Trust me, he can hold his own in a fight." Faced with Sunan's counterattack, Chu Yao didn't care much at first. She just smiled and replied, "Mr. Sun, I heard from the director that you're neighbors with Mr. Yang. I didn't realize you two had talked so much. It's not just because we're neighbors. We were high school classmates. I've been one of the guys since high school, and he knows exactly what I'm like, so I don't accept the word fake. But as for you, Miss Chu, did you really come all this way just for a honey bacon sandwich?" Hearing this, Chu Yao clearly started to lose her cool. "I've always loved the sandwiches here." Sunan just chuckled at her response. "Miss Chu, I usually hate to assume the worst of people. I guess I was too naive. As far as I know, this place only serves chicken sandwiches. You came all the way here to accidentally bump into him because you like him, right? All those warnings you gave me were because you see me as a threat. Too bad. We're just ordinary friends. There's nothing between us. Anyway, you should really get to know the guy. He's not as perfect as you think he is." He was mid-sentence when he felt a chill down his spine. He looked up to see Young Muley staring at him. His face clouded with gloom. "I'm dead. I've pissed him off again." For the rest of the meal, the table fell into a heavy silence. But when Sunin finished and went to pay the bill, the cashier told him it had already been settled. While he was wondering who paid, Young Muley walked over with his bag and said he was the one who covered it. "Mr. Sun, this place is so cheap. I'm saving your treat for a high-end restaurant next time." Hearing this excuse, Sunin was absolutely livid. He couldn't believe how calculating this jerk was being. Before they could argue further, a scream nearby cut them short. A man in black had just snatched Miss Chu's bag. Sunin didn't hesitate and took off after him. Seeing the thief pulling away, Sunin wasted no time. He whipped off one of his heels and hurled it at the man. As a former athlete, Sunin's aim was second to none. With a casual toss, he clocked the thief right in the head. As the thief hit the ground, Sunin rushed in to pin him down, but the thief was armed. Just in time, Young Muley appeared and grabbed the thief's arm. It could have ended badly otherwise. Young Muley, looking furious, started giving the thief a piece of his mind. Sunin stood by, completely stunned. It had been a long time since he'd seen Young Muley like this. The police arrived shortly after. After giving his statement, Young Muley finally turned his attention to Sunin. "Can you stop being so impulsive? I know you're tough, but there's still a strength gap between men and women. What if you'd gotten hurt?" He wanted to say more, but seeing Sunin's injured foot, Young Muley's heart softened again. He immediately bent down, offering him a piggyback ride home. Sunin tried to refuse at first, but Young Muley was so adamant that he finally gave in. But as soon as he hopped on, Young Muley couldn't help but tease him. "How much did you eat tonight, anyway? Why are you so heavy?" Hearing this, Sunin was instantly annoyed. "You jerk. Do you have to be so blunt?" "My bad. But Sunin, I wanted to ask you something. Why didn't you show up on graduation day?" At that question, Sunin felt a wave of sadness. Old, painful memories began to resurface. "Actually, I went, but I just felt like I didn't need to be there." As soon as he said it, Young Muley stopped in his tracks. "I see, but I'm still your senior. You know, the way you acted like a stranger really hurt. To make it up to me, just call me by my name from now on. No more Mr. Young stuff." Sunin, knowing he was in the wrong, nodded and agreed. Since they lived close to the restaurant, they reached his front door in no time. But just as Sunin was about to head in, he realized his keys were missing. So he had to crash at Young Muley's place and wait to call a locksmith tomorrow. When his best friend heard about this, she immediately gave him a knowing smirk. Late at night, all alone with him, reading the text, Sunin couldn't help but blush. By the time he composed himself, Young Muley was already kneeling before him with a first aid kit and a grin, ready to treat his injury. Sunin tried to decline, but Young Muley didn't give him a chance. He started tickling the bottom of his foot. Ultimately, Sunin couldn't resist the playful onslaught. He could only laugh and give in. By the time Young Muley finished bandaging the wound, it was late. Sunin usually went to bed early, so he fell into a deep sleep the moment he hit the bed. But he was a restless sleeper. He tossed and turned, kicking the covers off. And so, Young Muley spent the whole night looking after him. Eventually, he drifted off to sleep as well. But he hadn't slept long before Sunin's sleep-talking woke him up just as he got up to check on him. And the moment he lifted his head, a foot came flying toward him, kicking him straight against the wall. The loud thud against the wall woke up the fast-asleep Sunin. Sunin saw Young Muley looking a mess on the floor, completely clueless about what had happened. He stifled a laugh. "What happened to you? Why are you sitting on the floor?" Young Muley felt like he'd thrown out his back, rubbing the sore spot. He gave Sunin an annoyed look. "You have some nerve. I was sleeping fine by the bed when you started shouting like a maniac. I just wanted to check on you, and you kicked me." Listening to Young Muley's explanation, Sunin's face turned beet red. He quickly apologized and rushed off to work. As soon as he reached the office, his best friend gave him a wicked smirk. She asked if he'd slept well last night. Sunin was about to explain when Mr. Lee's voice interrupted them. "Mr. Young, what happened to your back?" "Nothing, just a little accident," he said while glancing over at Sunin. At those words, Xing Yue couldn't sit still. She immediately started imagining things. Seeing this, Sunin was about to scold his dirty-minded friend. But before he could act, his phone rang. Checking it, it was an invitation from the new bakery on the west side. Xing Yue noticed. It was another cute guy texting Sunin. A gossipy grin immediately spread across her face. "Okay, and then, spill the beans. How many cute guys are you hiding in your contacts? Mind sharing?" Even though Xing Yue was whispering, Young Muley, who was nearby, organizing test papers, heard everything. He suddenly felt a wave of frustration wash over him. The papers in his hand slipped and scattered all over the floor. Hearing the noise, Sunin rushed over to see what was wrong. He reached out to help, but Young Muley gave him the cold shoulder and turned down his offer. Seeing this, Sunin assumed he was still mad about the morning and didn't push the matter. The rest of the morning flew by. After school, Sunin wanted to take his best friend to that new bakery on the west side. That traitor ditched him to go see a guy, leaving him to explore the shop alone. But just as Sunin reached the intersection, a little kid suddenly hugged him, calling him big sister. Looking closely, it was his half-brother, Sunbai. He was stunned, not understanding why Sunbai was there. Sister, Mom took me shopping. Dad said you lived around here, so I came to find you. Sunin's face darkened instantly. So you ran off on your own again, without telling anyone, right? Seeing that his sister was angry, Sunbai looked down, feeling dejected. Because you never come home. Bye-bye just really missed you. That's why I came. Hearing this, Sunin finally softened. He decided to take him to the bakery. Sunbai was thrilled that his sister agreed. He reached out for her hand, but he slipped on the pavement, falling flat on the ground and bursting into tears. Coincidentally, this was exactly when Sunbai's mother spotted them. Seeing her son on the ground, she rushed to Sunbai without a second thought. She shoved Sunin aside and started screaming at him. Hearing her shrill insults, Sunin found it almost pathetic. He immediately fired back. You can't even keep an eye on your own son. Yet here you are, flying off the handle for no reason. If you're going through menopause, stay home. So much for being a perfect mother. Hearing this, Sunin's stepmother realized she was losing the argument and started acting completely irrational. Just as Sunin was at a loss for what to do, a pair of strong hands rested on his shoulders. Seeing young Muley had arrived, his frustration began to fade a little. When Sunin asked him why he was there, young Muley just scratched his head awkwardly, claiming he was just passing by. In reality, ever since hearing Xing Yue say he was going to meet a cute guy at lunch, his mood had been in the gutter. Unable to contain his curiosity, he had followed him, but the moment he arrived, he saw Sunin being shoved to the ground by a woman. Seeing Sunin had backup, the stepmother's temper flared even more. Young man, this is a family matter. Don't get involved. Besides, you have no idea what kind of person this girl is. Hearing her slander Sunin, young Muley's expression darkened. Actually, ma'am, I know him better than you do. I know exactly who he is and what he's capable of. And I won't stand by while you make unfounded accusations. As soon as he finished, Sunbai, who was still crying in his mother's arms, nodded in agreement, insisting his sister hadn't bullied him. Hearing her son say that, she immediately snapped. You silly child. She's not your sister. She doesn't even care about you. Seeing how irrational the woman was being, Sunin didn't even bother to explain anymore. He immediately tried to lead young Muley away, but they hadn't gone 2 steps before Cheng Shi's voice interrupted them. Auntie Sun, I just heard that Xiao Bai was being bullied. My car is parked right up ahead. My dashcam probably caught everything. Want me to pull up the footage for you? Hearing this, Sun's mother quickly declined with a fake smile. She claimed it was just a few minor scratches, then hurried away with Sunbai. With the situation resolved, Cheng Shi immediately ran over to Sunin. Hey Inin, wasn't I amazing just now? Come on, give me some credit. Seeing Cheng Shi being so shameless, Sunin shoved him away in annoyance. But their playful interaction caught young Muley's eye. He felt like his heart was shattering. Cheng Shi finally noticed young Muley standing there and asked Sunin if this handsome guy was his boyfriend. Sunin blushed instantly at the question. He's my senior from high school, and now he's my colleague and neighbor. Hearing that, Cheng Shi couldn't help but marvel at how small the world is. After some brief small talk, young Muley made an excuse about having work to do and left. His mind was a mess. He had thought he was the only one by Sunin's side. It seemed he had been way too overconfident. But before he could spiral further, he felt a tug on his clothes. When he turned around, there was Sunin. Young Muley, I've been thinking, since I'm your assistant homeroom teacher, we really should be working together. At those words, young Muley's mood instantly brightened. But his joy didn't last long. He saw Cheng Shi catching up to them in the distance, calling out Sunin's name. Young Muley wasn't about to let anyone ruin this moment. Without a word, he stepped in front of Sunin and even covered his ears. Sunin was completely baffled by young Muley's sudden move. 他不明白杨木里为什么要争夺，不过他现在只觉得自己的心跳得好快。在等杨木里看着李晨曦走眼红，他捂着寻儿耳朵的手这才松开，还随口说着前2天他看班里的孩子们在讨论捂塞耳朵后到底能不能听见声音的事，所以刚刚就哪里做个小实验。寻安听着他的解释，总觉得哪里不对，但他又说不出来。最终寻安也没再多想，与他一同去了学校工作。但随着时间的推移，很快就到了中秋佳节，学校也开展了1年1度的中秋运动会，其中老师也要参加。一开始便是各个方阵的入场仪式，而队伍中最亮眼的独属寻安所在的体育方阵，不仅是因为他们别具一格的装扮，更是因为他们坚持锻炼。远离轮椅的口号可谓是非常炸裂，一下子就将现场的气氛调动了起来。等入场仪式一结束，就到了比赛环节。在等青雨薇找到寻安时，他早已没了刚刚那股气势，有的只是满脸黑线。都怪我们那中2的体育组组长，我在学生们心中树立的严肃形象，前毁了他还想说些什么，却被一旁李晨曦的声音打断。安安，快过来，我有东西给你。寻安闻言只觉一脸懵，他记得自己没叫过李晨曦，他怎么来了？李晨曦自然看出了他的疑虑， 立刻就装出了一副伤心的模样啊！我是来给你送甜甜圈的。自从上次你追着你那个学长跑了后，就再也没回来过，真是伤透了我的心。正好前2天在店里听你们的学生说，今天是运动会，所以我就过来了。虽然李晨曦的声音不大， but thanks to his good looks, he still caught the eyes of many female students. Look at that hottie over there. Could he be Mr. Sun's boyfriend? I always thought Mr. Sun and Mr. Yang were a thing. Do you think Mr. Yang still has a chance? As soon as she said that, the students nearby broke into a heated debate. Before long, word reached Yang Muli's ears. By the time he spotted Sunin, he saw Chung Shi holding his hand. He didn't know what was wrong with him, but he just felt a pang of heartache. He was about to head over to Sunin, but as he passed by Xing Yue, he heard her mutter, "Why is it him?" At those words, Yang Muli's interest was instantly piqued. Thinking Xing Yue knew Chung Shi, he began to test the waters, digging for dirt on Sunin and that jerk. Unexpectedly, Xing Yue just huffed. "We're not close. Mr. Yang, I'd suggest you steer clear of him. I only met that guy once. Not only was he cold the whole time, but he actually rolled his eyes at me. If he weren't Anin's friend, I would have chewed him out long ago." Hearing Xing Yue's response, Yang Muli was completely baffled. He remembered meeting Chung Shi before, and he wasn't at all like she described. Could he be two-faced? While he was lost in thought, he saw Chung Shi hop right over the fence and head toward him. Seeing this, Xing Yue suppressed her urge to punch someone, said goodbye to Yang Muli, and made a run for it. Yang Muli watched this with a growing headache. He quickly composed himself, greeted Chung Shi, and left on the pretext of managing his class. Watching Yang Muli's retreating figure, Sunin couldn't help but think back to high school. Because he often didn't listen to Yang Muli, the older boy would often scold him while playfully grabbing his neck. He was lost in his thoughts, but Chung Shi's laughter snapped him out of it. "Sunin, were you just checking out Mr. Yang? Do you have a crush on him?" At those words, Sunin immediately panicked. He shook his head frantically in denial. Seeing his reaction, Chung Shi just gave a light chuckle and didn't press him any further. Before long, it was lunch break. Many students were eating lunch on the field, while others were getting ready for the afternoon events. That included the slacker, Chung Shi. He was practicing dance moves with 3 students, but they hadn't been at it long when Yang Muli caught them red-handed. When the students saw Mr. Yang, they wanted him to give it a try too. Yang Muli was about to decline, but then Chung Shi chimed in, "Mr. Yang, how about a little competition?" Those words instantly triggered Yang Muli's competitive streak. He accepted the challenge right then and there. Meanwhile, on the other side of the field, Sunin was clueless about what was happening. He was just chilling and eating a donut, but he'd only taken a few bites when a commotion behind him caught his attention. He turned around and saw Yang Muli sitting in the sandpit, surrounded by a crowd of students. Some students were wondering aloud, "Why is there glass in the sandpit?" At those words, Sunin's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly pushed through the crowd to check on Yang Muli. Seeing how worried Sunin looked, Yang Muli felt a warm glow inside. A moment later, he couldn't help but pinch Sunin's cheek. He told him he wasn't hurt, and that the glass was right there. Seeing that he was fine, Sunin finally started to calm down. Then, he asked a few students and cordoned off the area with caution tape. Seeing the situation was under control, Sunin was about to head back to work, but he hadn't gone 2 steps before Yang Muli grabbed his wrist. "Mr. Sun, could you walk me to the infirmary? When I was doing the long jump earlier, I banged my arm on the ground. It really hurts right now. I need you to take a look." Sunin felt a headache coming on. It's not like he was a doctor. He was about to say no, but Yang Muli didn't give him the chance. He just dragged him straight to the infirmary. Since it was lunch break, the school nurse was out to eat, so they were the only 2 there. The second they walked in, Yang Muli turned into a total drama queen, complaining about pain here, there, and everywhere. Sunin just rolled his eyes in annoyance and began checking his arm. "It used to be you in here, bandaging me up and lecturing me with your long speeches. Now look at us. The tables have turned." At those words, Yang Muli just smirked. Then, he got straight to the point. "Sunin, have you ever liked me?" Sunin wasn't ready for such a straight shooter. He blushed instantly and tried to get up to leave, but Yang Muli wasn't about to let him off that easy. He pulled him back down and softly asked again if he had ever liked him. Facing the question, Sunin stood frozen for a long time. Eventually, he gave a tiny nod. "I do like you, Yang Muli. I know how moody I was back in high school. When everyone was icing me out, you stood by me. I've come to depend on you, and I'm grateful to have always had a friend like you. I'm so lucky." Hearing the word friend, Yang Muli's heart sank with disappointment. He quickly composed himself and got ready to leave, muttering to himself that they wouldn't be friends anymore. It was the first time the school heartthrob took his drunk little wife home. Who would have thought she'd steal his first kiss the moment they walked in? Yang Muli was completely stunned by the sudden turn of events, feeling the lingering warmth on his lips. He was absolutely over the moon. On the other side of things, Sunin was actually hiding out at his best friend's place. He remembered exactly what happened last night, but whether that kiss was real or just a drunken hallucination, he couldn't quite wrap his head around it. He felt like he was going out of his mind. If he hadn't been so hurt at his grandmother's, he would never have drunk that much. As it turned out, after the sports meet, he received a text from his father asking him to come home for the holiday. Honestly, he didn't want to go back to that messy home. But before his mother passed away, he had promised her not to make things difficult for his dad. So ultimately, he returned to that place of heartbreak. The moment he arrived, Grandma was busy chatting with his older brother, completely ignoring him. Sunan was long used to this. After a brief greeting, he just found a place to sit down. He and his father barely spoke. After a few simple updates on life, they ran out of things to say. Unexpectedly, as soon as Grandma was free, she started lecturing him. Sunan, I'm not trying to pick on you, but you never come home. And when you do, you just sit there. Is it right to just watch your mother work herself to death? His brother tried to intervene. She went on to say Sunan was just like his birth mother, lazy to the bone. Hearing that, Sunan couldn't take it anymore. He fired back but Grandma ignored him. Fine, everything is my fault. I shouldn't have come here in the first place. As soon as the words left his mouth, he turned and walked out. He didn't even care about the old woman's complaints echoing behind him. But not long after he stepped out, his father caught up and grabbed his wrist. Sunan, don't be like this. Go apologize to Grandma. It's rare for the whole family to be together. But before he could finish, Sunan cut him off. Dad, I just want to ask you one thing. Did you ever truly love Mom? Mom used to say that meeting you was the luckiest thing in her life. Then why do I feel like Mom was so miserable? Every time Grandma humiliated her, why didn't you ever stand up for her? Seeing his father's silence, Sunan didn't say another word. He just walked away from that place of heartbreak. Looking at the disappointment in his daughter's eyes, the father felt a deep ache in his heart. He spent a long time reflecting on it, planning to have a real talk once she cooled off. But unexpectedly, as time went by, he couldn't get a hold of Sunan at all. Terrified that something might have happened, he called Li Qingxi, asking him to check on Sunan's apartment. Li Qingxi agreed immediately. But when he arrived at the apartment, no matter how much he knocked, there was no answer from inside. The urgent, loud knocking caught Yang Muli's attention across the hall. He didn't understand why someone would be looking for Sunan this late at night. However, when he opened the door to check, he was frozen in disbelief. There were actually two Li Qingxis at the door. Li Qingxi was also surprised by the door opening. Seeing it was Yang Muli, he immediately asked about Sunan's whereabouts. Realizing Yang Muli didn't know either, Li Qingxi was deeply disappointed. Still, he told him that Sunan was missing and asked for his help in the search. Yang Muli threw on his clothes immediately and headed to the places he knew best. He remembered back in high school. Sunan would always hide here when he was upset. But right now, the place was empty. Yang Muli started to feel discouraged. Just then, his phone rang. It was a call from Qing Yue. Mr. Yang, I know a place where Anan might go. It's the Jiangwan near the school. Following the address Yue gave him, Yang Muli rushed over there as fast as he could. But when he arrived, he saw Li Qingxi and Sunan messing around together. In that moment, Yang Muli didn't know what. He just felt a sharp pang of jealousy. When Li Qingxi tried to take Sunan away, he couldn't help but feel uneasy. He wanted to step in and help. But when he heard Li Qingxi was taking Sunan to his house to let his mother look after him, Yang Muli was instantly annoyed. Yet, he didn't have a good excuse to object. Just as he was racking his brain, Qing Yue called him. The moment he heard Yue's voice, a perfect plan formed in his mind. The next second, he called out to Li Qingxi and told him that Sunan's best friend had arrived. Let's just take him back to his own place. It'll be much easier to look after him there. As soon as the words left his mouth, Sunan suddenly lunged at him, trying to snatch his phone to talk to Qingqing. Seeing Sunan like this, Li Qingxi didn't argue further. By the time they got Sunan home, it was already late. The moment they walked in, Sunan threw himself at Yue. Watching this intimate scene, the guys all took the hint and stepped outside. After Yang Muli saw off Li Qingxi and his brother, he couldn't help but knock on Sunan's door again. Qing Yue answered, assuming Yang Muli was there to see Sunan. But before she could speak, Yang Muli cut her off and told her he was actually looking for her. This left Qing Yue completely bewildered. Miss Qing, does Anan's condition today have to do with his parents? Qing Yue gave a slow nod. Actually, when Anan was little, he loved his mother more than anything. But his grandmother was the exact opposite. She couldn't stand Anan because of it. And then later on, he crashed his father and stepmother's wedding, which made the family tension even worse. The only person who defended him was his aunt, but she's rarely around because of work. So despite how tough and independent he seems now, and how well he takes care of himself, he had a really miserable childhood. Listening to her story, Yang Muli, he couldn't help but frown. But before he could press for more details, they were interrupted by a loud noise from the bedroom. The sound gave them both a heart attack, and they immediately rushed into Sunan's room. The moment they entered, they saw Sunan wearing boxing gloves, shouting at the top of his lungs, "Let's play." Qing Yue had never seen this side of Sunan before. She just felt a massive headache coming on. Seriously, who plays with boxing gloves while drunk? But seeing this, Yang Muli couldn't help but snicker behind his hand. He had never seen such a cute side of Sunan. He immediately agreed to play along. Qing Yue looked at these two crazy birds and was completely speechless. She ended up kicking them out to the living room, while she took over Sunan's big bed and fell into a deep sleep. Meanwhile, outside, Sunin and Yang Muli sparred until 2 a.m. Finally, out of breath, Sunin collapsed. The moment he lay down, Yang Muli asked if he was okay. Instead, he reached out and took off Yang Muli's glasses. Little Yang, don't wear glasses anymore. Don't dress like my dad. Little Yang, do you think love is something where as long as you swap the person, anyone will do? Of course not. There's always that one person who's the only one. Hearing his explanation, Sunin just gave a soft, thin smile. Then, Yang Muli, is there someone like that in your heart? Yeah, that person is you. Hearing those words, Sunin felt a warm glow. In the next second, as if possessed, he leaned in and pressed his lips against Yang Muli's. Yang Muli was completely caught off guard by this sudden kiss. It felt like he was dreaming. But the lingering warmth on his lips reminded him every second that this was very real. He didn't know how to describe the feeling. It was just an indescribable rush of excitement and joy. He was about to ask if Sunin liked him. He realized that he had already fallen fast asleep. No matter how much Yang Muli called out to him, he just wouldn't wake up. In the end, Yang Muli had to wait until he sobered up the next day to ask him again. But unexpectedly, as soon as Sunin woke up, he bolted to his aunt's house early in the morning to dodge Yang Muli's pursuit. He couldn't bring himself to face Yang Muli right now because the moment he saw him, those embarrassing scenes would flash through his mind. He wasn't sure if what happened last night was real or just some drunken hallucination. Seeing her nephew like this, his aunt immediately gave a mischievous smirk. Sunin, are you seeing someone? The second she said that, Sunin's face turned even redder. He quickly shook his head in denial. It's just, lately I've been having some strange thoughts about someone. The thing is, last night while drunk, I think I kissed him, but I'm not sure if it actually happened. If it was real, how am I ever supposed to face him? I'm literally dying of embarrassment. Listening to her nephew's explanation, the aunt couldn't help but giggle. Then, she asked the million-dollar question. So, do you like him? Faced with that, Sunin went silent for a long time. Seeing his reaction, she already knew the answer. Since you like him, Sunin, just tell him clearly. If he feels the same way, then everyone's happy. If not, then just let it go. Don't settle just because you're afraid of losing a friend. If you don't make a move soon, watch out, or someone else will snag him. Sunin listened to his aunt's advice, and something finally clicked. He decided to stop running away. The weather in the city had turned cold lately. As the seasons shifted to autumn, Sunin felt the chill as he walked down the street. But as he reached his apartment building, he bumped straight into Yang Muli, who was standing there like a statue. He didn't expect them to run into each other so soon. Yang Muli was thrilled to see Sunin, but seeing Sunin in such a thin jacket, he instinctively frowned. In the next second, he draped his own coat over Sunin's shoulders. The temperature's been dropping lately. Remember to bundle up. Sunin gave a submissive little nod. Since they were standing so close, Sunin could catch a faint, floral scent from Yang Muli. Feeling like the mood was just right, he thought about finally telling him how he felt. But before he could open his mouth, he was interrupted by a delicate voice nearby. By the time Sunin realized where the voice came from, he was stunned. Is that Xiao Yuning? Finding out she was there for Yang Muli, Sunin's heart sank. Old, bitter memories began to resurface. He remembered back in high school. Rumors flew that Yang Muli had confessed his feelings to Xiao Yuning. Snapping back to reality, he saw Xiao Yuning holding her faculty ID, telling Yang Muli with a smile that they were now colleagues. Yang Muli responded with a smile of his own. Watching them together in such harmony, Sunin didn't know why, but he felt a sharp sting in his heart. He quickly made up an excuse and left. In the days that followed, Sunin went out of his way to avoid Yang Muli. His best friend, of course, noticed something was up immediately. She went full Sherlock Holmes on him. Sunin, you're dodging Yang Muli because of that new teacher, Xiao Yuning, aren't you? Before she could tease him any further, the bell for morning study cut them off. Hearing the bell, Qingyue remembered she actually had a class to teach. She quickly said goodbye to Sunin and scurried away. Watching his ditzy friend, Sunin couldn't help but sigh, just as he was about to go back to shoveling snow. But then, Xiao Yuning came looking for him. Excuse me, Mr. Sun. I have a favor to ask. Can we swap desks? I have some important open classes coming up, and it's a hassle constantly running to the meeting room with Mr. Yang. So, regarding that spot next to him, could we switch? Listening to Xiao Yuning, Sunin wanted to say no at first, but unfortunately, the principal wanted them to collaborate better, and even came in person to discuss the desk swap. In the end, Sunin was forced to cave. When Yang Muli found out, he had a massive headache. Now that their desks were so far apart, how was he supposed to flirt with his wifey? In the midst of his frustration, he realized he could still find him in the cafeteria. So, he intentionally sat next to Sunin during lunch. Seeing Yang Muli, Qingyue immediately invited him to join them. She even gave Yang Muli and Sunin a piece of gum each, telling them to freshen up for a kiss. The second she said that, Yang Muli and Sunin both seemed to remember something, and their faces turned beet red. Across from them, Qingyue saw this and flashed a gossipy grin. You two are acting suspicious at Yue's teasing. Neither of them answered. Once Yang Muli composed himself and wanted to talk to his wifey, unexpectedly, Sunin finished the rest of his food in 3 bites, stood up, and bolted. leaving him with zero chance to strike up a conversation. This move left young Muley completely stunned. He had no idea what was wrong with Sunin lately. Ever since running into him downstairs that day, Sunin had been acting weird and constantly avoiding him. He only remembered meeting Xiao Yuning that day. Nothing else happened. Suddenly, a bold thought crossed his mind. Could Sunin be jealous? At the thought of this, young Muley's eating speed picked up unconsciously. In just a few bites, his tray was empty. Just as he was about to go find Sunin for some answers, he bumped into Xiao Yuning right outside the cafeteria. Mr. Yang, why is your face so red? Are you thinking about someone you like? Faced with Xiao Yuning's question, young Muley was momentarily speechless, not knowing how to respond. Meanwhile, on the other side, Sunin was busy punishing students who skipped class. But as soon as he turned around, he saw young Muley in the distance, laughing and chatting with Xiao Yuning. He didn't know why. But seeing this, he just wanted to give that jerk a good thrashing. The next second, he instinctively hurled the basketball in his hand at young Muley. By the time he realized what he'd done, it was too late. The ball flew straight toward young Muley's face. Luckily, young Muley's reflexes were sharp, and he managed to block the incoming ball. Sunin wanted to crawl into a hole and hide. He had no idea what had gotten into him. He quickly composed himself and told young Muley to throw the ball back, acting cool. But young Muley completely ignored him, pretending he couldn't hear. Sunin couldn't help but pout. He had to go over and get the ball himself. Seeing Sunin's huffy expression, young Muley couldn't resist teasing him. "I'm not going to run away this time." But before he could finish, Sunin completely ignored him, snatched the ball, and turned to bolt. He's about to escape, but after only 2 steps, young Muley grabbed his wrist from behind. During their little scuffle, a piece of paper fell out of Sunin's pocket. Young Muley immediately bent down to pick it up. Seeing it was a ticket for a haunted house, a smirk played on young Muley's lips. He leaned in towards Sunin and asked if he was scared to go alone, and asked if he should tag along. Unexpectedly, the moment he spoke, Sunin shot him down, claiming he already had a date. With those words, young Muley was instantly consumed by jealousy. He was so ticked off he skipped lunch just to grill Sunin's best friend for the truth. When he heard Qingyue say that she was the one going with Sunin, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. He figured Sunin was just talking smack to annoy him. Just as young Muley was about to leave, satisfied, Qingyue called out from behind, "Mr. Yang, why don't you come with us? I happen to have 2 extra tickets. I was supposed to bring my friend, along with Inin and the others, but something came up and they can't make it." Hearing this, young Muley froze in his tracks. Wait, they're going too? When he realized Li Qingxi and Li Bian would be there, he snatched the tickets from Qingyue immediately. He was definitely joining them. No way was he giving that pretty boy a single chance to be alone with Sunin. So late that night, the group arrived at the haunted house together. The vibe was undeniably awkward. The owner, seeing such a big crowd, enthusiastically started explaining the rules. As you can see, there are 6 checkpoints marked on this map. You need to collect the corresponding stamps. Each stamp matches a mascot. Collect 5, and you'll get a 2-hour open bar voucher for the restaurant across the street. Collect all 6, and everyone gets a cash prize. At the mention of prizes, the 2 best friends were instantly sold. They were ready to start the mission right then and there. But while they were signing up, young Muley's phone suddenly rang, and the contact name on the screen happened to be spotted by Sunin. Seeing it, Sunin couldn't help but mutter under his breath, "It's only been 7 years. Do they really have to be together day and night? Good thing I didn't confess last night. Otherwise, he'd definitely be laughing at me right now." Meanwhile, young Muley had no clue what was going through Sunin's head, as he was still busy chatting away with his old classmate. It turned out there was a class reunion tonight, but because young Muley wanted to spend more time with Sunin, he had politely declined. As soon as the registration was over, the competition kicked off. The moment they entered the haunted house, they were met with a pitch-black corridor. There were countless rooms lining the hallway, which absolutely terrified Qingyue. She kept her eyes shut and clung to Sunin. She thought they could just walk through to finish the mission, but before she could take 2 steps, the lights in the corridor went out completely. They were suddenly plunged into total darkness, surrounded by all sorts of creepy noises. This made the already anxious Yue even more scared. Right now, she just wanted to get out of this terrifying place as fast as possible. Seeing her companions still debating which room to enter, Yue couldn't take it anymore. Without a word, she grabbed the person next to her and ducked into a random room. She thought she was pulling her bestie, Sunin, but it turned out she grabbed the wrong person. She was dragging along her arch-nemesis instead. She just wanted to crawl into a hole and hide. It was beyond embarrassing. But before she could wallow in her shame for long, from the phone of Li Bian next to her, she heard Sunin's voice. "Li Bian, please look after Qingqing for me. She's actually quite a scaredy cat." Seeing how much her bestie cared about her, Yue was touched beyond words. She thought her rival would actually listen to Sunin and be somewhat nice to her. Who would have thought that as soon as the call ended, he would just pull a face of pure disgust? "Hey, jellyfish head, if you're such a coward, why do you even come here?" Faced with Li Bian's mockery, Xin Yue wasn't about to back down. She fired back immediately. "You jerk, why are you being so mean? It's a haunted house. What's the point if you aren't scared? Besides, I came to keep Inin in company. Who knew I'd end up stuck with you?" Li Baiyan saw she was about done with her ranting and wanted to get out of there fast, but Jellyfish Head was so shaky she couldn't even walk. In the end, Baiyan had no choice but to wait with her. After nearly 10 minutes, he started losing his patience, so he told her to stay put. While he went to finish the mission, when Qing Yue realized this jerk was actually going to ditch her, she almost begged him to stay, but to save face, she kept her mouth shut. For the rest of the time, Li Baiyan breezed through the levels. He didn't even blink at the monsters in his way. He was almost at the meeting point. But then he saw a monster heading back toward the path he'd just come from. He couldn't stop thinking about Mushroom Head. He didn't want to get involved. But his heart eventually softened. Muttering women are so much trouble. He doubled back the way he came. When he finally found her, she was being terrorized by the monster he passed earlier. She looked ready to cry. Li Baiyan stepped in and shooed the staff member away. But Yue was still in fight or flight mode. Sensing someone else approaching, she threw 2 quick punches. Li Baiyan was completely caught off guard by her sudden outburst. He grabbed her wrists immediately and tried to explain. The moment she recognized that jerk's voice, she finally calmed down, seeing she was back to her senses. Li Baiyan let go of her hands, but the next second, he couldn't help but complain. If Sunan hadn't asked me to look after you, I would have left you here ages ago. I seriously don't get girls like you. You don't use your head. You just love to scream. The second he said that, Qing Yue officially reached her limit. The tiny bit of gratitude she had for this jerk instantly vanished. Why are you so obnoxious? I'm literally scared to death. Can't you just give it a rest for a second? Maybe because Yue was still in shock. Even while she was snapping at him, she was still gripping Li Baiyan's hand. Once they both noticed, the mood turned incredibly awkward. Ultimately, Li Baiyan was the first to break the silence. Mushroom Head, you can stop clinging to my sleeve now. Hearing this, Yue felt a strange sense of unfamiliarity. Was this really the same jerk she knew? For the rest of the way, they headed toward the meeting point together. Since it was the path Li Baiyan had come from, it was smooth sailing. He knew exactly where. Every jump scare was hidden, but before they could get very far, a giant centipede suddenly dropped in front of them. It scared them both out of their wits. Before Qing Yue could even let out a shriek, she was cut off by Li Baiyan's high-pitched scream. He practically dragged her out of the room. Once they caught their breath outside, Li Baiyan suddenly realized he'd forgotten to grab the stamp from that room. But Qing Yue didn't care about the mission. She was busy snickering. Hey, jerk, was that manly scream back there? Really you? You acted so tough when lecturing me. Turns out you have a weak spot, too. Faced with Yue's mockery, Li Baiyan didn't even argue. He just reached out and covered her mouth. I was just caught off guard, okay? Plus, there weren't any centipedes when I went through earlier. Qing Yue ignored Li Baiyan's excuses. Instead, a mischievous smirk played on her face. Hey, jerk, I've got dirt on you now. If you're ever mean to me again, I'll tell everyone what happened. Your reputation will be ruined. Facing Yue's threat, Li Baiyan was completely powerless. They quickly cleared the remaining rooms and reached the meeting point. The moment they got out, everyone started sharing the funny things that happened inside. Suddenly, Li Chengxi remembered something. Right as I was about to head out, I heard a guy screaming his head off. Are there other guests in this haunted house besides us? The staff member nearby shook his head immediately, explaining that they were the only group currently inside. With that revealed, the scene instantly got lively. In a split second, all eyes fell on Li Baiyan. While Baiyan was struggling to find an excuse, Qing Yue stepped in to bail him out. She claimed that the scream didn't come from Li Baiyan. Eventually, seeing no clear answer, they let the matter drop. The shopkeeper then traded their collected stamps for prizes. But Qing Yue noticed the jellyfish plushie she wanted was missing. She tried to swap her prize with the shopkeeper, but was flatly refused. Apparently, there was only one jellyfish plushie left, and if she took it, other players wouldn't have a chance. Hearing this, Yue couldn't help but feel let down. Just then, Yang Muley found them after finishing in the restroom. As soon as he arrived, his phone sitting nearby started ringing. Noticing his hands were still wet, he asked Sunan to pick it up for him. But when Sunan saw the contact name on the screen, he was instantly flooded with jealousy. He suppressed his irritation and picked up the call. But the moment it connected, he was stunned to see Xiao Yaoning linking arms with another guy. Sunan was momentarily confused, but before he could overthink it, Xiao Yuning on the other end greeted him warmly. Hi, Mr. Sun and Miss Qing. Qing Yue immediately greeted her back, seeing the guy next to Ms. Qiao. She flashed a gossipy grin. Ms. Qiao, is that your boyfriend next to you? Yes, we've been together since high school graduation. We happened to come to the reunion together. Hearing Xiao Yuning's explanation, the two of them immediately offered their congratulations. Meanwhile, Yang Muley, who was standing aside, had been watching Sunan's reaction closely. Seeing the misunderstanding cleared up, he finally stepped forward to take back his phone. Sunan just wanted to crawl into a hole and hide. Turns out he had been completely misreading Yang Muley. Just as he was wondering how to apologize, he was interrupted by Li Qingxi. Let's go? I got the dinner vouchers. Let's go have a feast. At the mention of food, Sunan got excited instantly. But as soon as they stepped out of the haunted house, the owner called them back. Apparently, those vouchers could only be used starting next week. Hearing this, Sunan felt like a deflated balloon. losing all his energy. So where are we supposed to eat now? It's peak dinner hour everywhere. It'll be packed. As soon as he said that, Qing Yue made a suggestion. Unin, how about we just go to your place and cook? Besides, I've been wanting to see your little kitten. Everyone agreed with Yue's proposal. However, young Muley excused himself, explaining that he had to attend his class reunion. The group waved goodbye to him. Time flew by. By the time young Muley finished his reunion, it was late at night, but when he arrived at Sunin's place, he was met with a shocking sight. Everyone was lying in the living room, fast asleep with the lights off. Nearby, Li Bian noticed young Muley's stunned face and immediately explained, after you left, we bought a ton of ingredients, only to realize none of us knew how to cook. The delivery we ordered still hasn't shown up. Hearing this, young Muley couldn't help but snicker. So, you guys just sat here starving for an hour? Don't you two run a dessert shop? You mean to tell me you can't cook a meal? At young Muley's question, Li Bian scratched his head awkwardly, saying they only knew how to make desserts. Young Muley shook his head helplessly. He then flipped on the kitchen lights, ready to show off his skills. Hearing the noise, the others woke up and immediately crowded around to watch. Unin, look, isn't Mr. Young hot? A man who can cook. His charisma is just off the charts. Listening to this, Li Qingxi didn't want to be outdone and pulled Li Bian aside. Bian, I saw milk and eggs in the fridge earlier. Let's make some desserts too. But as Li Bian passed by Qing Yue, he tossed something toward her. When Yue saw what it was, she was amazed to find it was the jellyfish from the haunted house. She was thrilled. Just as she was about to ask Li Bian where he got the jellyfish, he simply replied, consider it a thank you, and walked away. Yue watched his receding figure and couldn't help but giggle. No wonder that guy disappeared at the supermarket. He wasn't scared after all. Why go back for it? Before long, young Muley had dinner ready. Looking at the lavish spread, everyone dove in and finished every scrap. After dinner was over, everyone sat down for a game of cards, trying to show off in front of Sunin. Young Muley drank heavily with Li Juanhuan. He eventually drank Juanhuan under the table, but he was pretty wasted himself by the time he and Sunin finished, dropping off Qing Yue and the Li brothers. It was late at night. As the night wore on, young Muley felt his head spinning more and more, and his body felt like it was floating. Just then, Sunin noticed something was off with him. He was about to ask if he was okay, but in the next second, young Muley just flashed him a goofy grin and slammed his head right into a nearby pillar. Sunin was scared half to death. He rushed over to check for injuries, but young Muley reached out first and cupped his cheek. He started babbling about his little ginger cat, asking, is that our Ho-Ho? Hearing this, Sunin was completely bewildered. His cat wasn't even a ginger. It was Hu Dazhuang. He gave a soft, hesitant reply, but the moment the words were out, young Muley excitedly scooped him up in a hug, shouting Ho-Ho, Sunin, at the top of his lungs. Sunin had never seen young Muley like this, with everyone watching. His face turned beet red instantly. Meanwhile, at a nearby bus stop, two kids were taking their sweet time enjoying the drama. By the time Sunin got young Muley home, it was the crack of dawn. The moment they stepped inside, young Muley didn't care about anything. He just hugged the bed and passed out. When young Muley went to school the next day sober, he felt like his head was going to explode. As soon as he entered the gates, tons of students started greeting him. Some of them even started gossiping about Mr. Sun. This left young Muley completely baffled. He had no idea what those brats were talking about. But before he could think further, he was interrupted by a commotion nearby. An elderly woman had fallen just a short distance away, yet no one was stepping in to help. Some were even whispering about it being a scam. Seeing this, young Muley rushed over and helped the old woman up. Noticing she was struggling even to stand, he decided to take her to the hospital himself. Meanwhile, on the other side, Sunin was sitting in the office, staring blankly and feeling drained. Seeing that young Muley still hadn't shown up, his mood only got worse. His best friend, of course, noticed his funk and immediately gave him a knowing smirk. What's up, Anin? Missing your precious young Muley, are we? At those words, Sunin immediately started lecturing his friend. But while they were messing around, Sunin's eyes accidentally caught the little jellyfish hanging on Yue's bag. This instantly piqued his interest. When he learned that Li Bian was the one who gave it to Qing Yue, his eyes lit up with a look of I knew it. Qing, is there something going on between you and Li Bian? Yue was just about to explain, but she was interrupted by Sunin's phone ringing. Seeing it was a call from his father, Sunin picked up immediately. To his shock, within seconds, he heard the news that his grandmother had been hospitalized. At first, Sunin was tense, but he quickly regained his composure. Dad, don't worry, Grandma is fine now. A young man saved her. To thank him, I'm inviting him over for dinner this weekend. Why don't you come too? Hearing this, Sunin's first instinct was to decline, but when his dad mentioned that the guy knew him too, his curiosity was piqued. Just as he was wondering who this mysterious guy could be, Young Muli's voice came through the other end of the line. The second he heard that, Sunin couldn't stay in his seat. He stood up abruptly, in total shock. This sudden, strange outburst instantly drew the eyes of every other teacher in the office. Once Sunin managed to regain his cool, he finally asked how Young Muli ended up there. As soon as he asked, Young Muli couldn't help but let out a chuckle. Because it just so happens, I was the young man who helped the old lady. And besides, your dad told me quite a few stories from your childhood. I have to say, it's so you. Hearing this, Sunin just wanted to crawl into a hole and hide. He was doomed. The good image he had in Young Muli's mind was officially ruined. But now he had to wonder, should he actually go home with him this weekend? If he did, how was that any different from bringing a boyfriend to meet the parents? In the end, after some very careful consideration, Sunin decided to go with Young Muli anyway. As winter approached, the daily temperature began to drop. It was even snowing lightly on that weekend. By the time Young Muli arrived at Sunin's place, it was already noon. The moment they walked in, Sunin's family showered Young Muli with thanks. The atmosphere was incredibly harmonious. Little Bai, seeing his big brother arrive, happily lunged onto Sunin's back. Grandma, seeing Little Bai being so reckless, couldn't help but frown. Be careful, kid. Don't fall. We have a guest today. Say hello. Following Grandma's instructions, Little Bai finally noticed Young Muli standing there. He gave a shy, quiet, hello, uncle. Sunin burst out laughing at the greeting. After that little interlude, everyone gathered around the dining table for the meal. But before Young Muli could even pick up his chopsticks, Sunin's grandma started prying into his marital status. Hearing the question, Young Muli just smiled and said he was currently single. Hearing this, Sunin's grandma immediately started pitching her niece as a match. But before she could even finish her sentence, Young Muli politely declined her kind offer. He explained that while he was currently single, there was someone he liked. Her personality is a bit scattered, but she's a very straightforward and adorable girl. As soon as he said that, everyone at the table turned their gaze in unison towards Sunin. Sunin was completely thrown by the sudden attention, not understanding why they were all staring at him. The next second, he awkwardly scratched his head and blurted out, "It's not me." But the moment the words left his mouth, his father couldn't help but snicker. Seeing his father's reaction, Sunin realized he had totally put his foot in his mouth. He wanted to crawl into a hole and hide. It was beyond embarrassing. How could I say something so stupid? He didn't dare look up at Young Muli's expression, so he just kept his head down and shoveled food. After everyone finished lunch, Young Muli and Sunin took over the dishwashing duties. Because of what had just happened, Sunin barely spoke to Young Muli, silently scrubbing dishes by himself. Young Muli, standing next to him, naturally noticed something was off. Seeing bubbles all over Sunin's head from washing up, he proactively offered his arm so Sunin could wipe them off. Sunin didn't refuse. He submissively rubbed his head against Young Muli's sleeve. This intimate moment happened to catch Little Bai's eye. "Sis, Dad wants you to get the fruit platter." "And Uncle, when are you leaving?" Young Muli was speechless. He was stunned. He couldn't figure out what he'd done wrong to make this little brat hate him so much, but he didn't dwell on it and went right back to flaunting his affection with Sunin. Seeing his warning had zero effect, Little Bai decided to pivot to plan B. He started by faking a fall in front of his sister to play the victim. Then he demanded that his sister tell him a story. Sunin had never seen Little Bai act like this, so she immediately softened and agreed. Seeing his plan succeed, Little Bai didn't forget to stick his tongue out at Young Muli before leaving. Watching all of this unfold, Young Muli was momentarily speechless. He never imagined he'd be played like a fiddle by a little kid. But he wasn't actually angry. Thinking that his run-ins with this little monster would be rare, he decided to cut his future brother-in-law some slack. But who would have thought? The next afternoon, he was assigned by Sunin the task of picking up Sunbai from school, since Sunin had to train the student-athletes today, and his father had to work late. This daunting task ultimately fell on Young Muli's shoulders. At first, Young Muli wanted to turn down the mission, but thinking that Nin would owe him a favor for this, he sucked it up and took the job. However, when he arrived at Sunbai's extracurricular class, he witnessed a shocking scene. An older, bigger kid was bullying Sunbai, calling him a big loser for missing a catch. Watching from the sidelines, Young Muli was fuming. Seeing the kid about to push Sunbai further, Young Muli stepped in immediately to shield him. He even caught the basketball thrown their way. At first, Young Muli wasn't in a hurry to lecture this brat. Instead, right in front of him, he performed some flashy basketball moves. The display made the bully green with envy. Instantly, he looked at Young Muli with pure admiration, begging him to teach him. But as soon as the kid spoke, Young Muli flashed him a wicked smirk. The basketball in his hand flew straight toward him. This absolutely terrified the brat. He ducked and covered his head, thinking he was about to get slammed by the ball. However, to his surprise, the expected pain of the ball hitting him never came. All he heard was Young Muli's laughter. "Hey kid, look. If you got hit by a basketball, you'd be scared too, right? If I used my skills just to bully you with the ball, would you be happy? Bullying others is wrong. I only share my tricks with polite kids. So, you need to apologize to Sunbai first." The brat looked reluctant for a moment. But under Yang Muli's firm but gentle guidance, he finally apologized to Sunbai. The commotion soon caught the eye of the other girls nearby. Sunbai, who is this cool older guy? He's my sister's friend. As soon as he said that, the little girls got all excited. Then isn't he your brother-in-law? Your brother-in-law is so handsome. Listening to them, Sunbai was momentarily dazed. He didn't quite get what brother-in-law meant. Meanwhile, Sunin just finished his training session nearby. Va immediately asked Young Muli about Little Bai. Learning they were in the locker room next door, Sunin rushed over without a second thought. But the moment he walked in, he saw Sunbai playing happily with Young Muli, shouting brother-in-law. The title caught Sunin completely off guard. Yesterday, Little Bai was still calling him uncle. So how did he become brother-in-law today? To keep things from spiraling out of control, Sunin lunged at Little Bai. Va covered his mouth, watching this scene play out. Young Muli found it hilarious, seeing that it was getting late. He suggested Sunin bring Little Bai over to his place. Sunin wanted to refuse at first, but Little Bai, Va Young Muli were now thick as thieves. Ultimately, he could only nod in agreement. By the time they finished dinner, Va put Little Bai to bed. It was already late. Watching Young Muli busy himself in the kitchen, Sunin felt a wave of indescribable emotion. Young Muli, I really put you out tonight. You even cooked a whole meal for Little Bai. I told you ordering takeout would be easier. But as soon as the words were out, Young Muli just chuckled and shook his head. Little Bai is still growing. We should avoid giving him too much takeout. It's not great for a kid's development. Sunin listened to his explanation and found it quite sensible. He couldn't help but tease. You're really acting like a doting father right now. Young Muli felt like crying inside. First, Little Bai calls him uncle, and now Sunin says he's like a dad. Do I really look that old? He was about to defend himself, but the lights suddenly went out. At the same time, both of their phones buzzed with a notification. Checking their screens, they realized the blackout was caused by old wiring in the neighborhood. Sunin saw the message and realized the power wouldn't be back anytime soon. He decided to look for an emergency light in the cupboard, but as soon as he opened the top shelf, a photo album tumbled out, and one specific photo immediately caught Young Muli's eye. Is this your mother? You two look exactly alike. Sunin just gave a soft, nostalgic smile. That's what everyone says. Half my looks are from my mom, the other half from my aunt. When I was a kid, my aunt used to tell me stories about my parents. She said their love story was the envy of everyone. My dad was such a stiff guy back then, but he actually stole the family register just to marry her. I used to think they would live happily ever after like that, but I was wrong. Their lives turned into a cycle of endless fighting. Young Muli, why do people even get married? Is it because we know how fragile and unreliable love really is? Is that why people use marriage to try and make a relationship last? My mom was still looking out for my dad until the very end, but not long after she passed away. He already brought someone new home. You once asked me if I ever thought about starting a family of my own, but how could I even dare to dream of that? As Sunin finished speaking, Young Muli just gently shook his head. Then, he softly cupped Sunin's cheek. Unin, would you try to trust me? Even after 7 years apart, I still came back. I'm not going to leave you. The moment those words were out, Sunin's mind went completely blank. He didn't know what this jerk was playing at. And besides, why was this guy leaning in so close? What exactly was he trying to do? Just as they were about to kiss, suddenly, a knock came from the front door. The sound snapped Sunin back to reality instantly. He scrambled away, using the door as an excuse to escape. Sitting there, Young Muli wanted to strangle whoever was at the door. He was this close to finally kissing Sunin. But when they opened the door together to check, they found that it was Sunin's father. Both of them were totally thrown off. Luckily, Young Muli was quick-witted. He quickly explained that he was worried Sunin couldn't handle Little Bai alone, so he just came over to help out. He even mentioned he lived right next door. The father listened in silence for a long moment, before nodding skeptically. He said he had come to take Little Bai home. Once they saw the father and Little Bai off, they finally breathed a sigh of relief. After what almost happened, Sunin didn't dare even look at Young Muli. He didn't understand what Young Muli meant by those things he said. His brain was a total mess right now, but in the midst of the chaos, a brilliant idea hit him. Why not use his dad's interruption as a distraction and just act like nothing ever happened? But when he turned around to say goodbye to Young Muli, he realized Young Muli had already seen right through him. It looked like there was no way he could just brush this off. But while he was still racking his brain for an escape plan, Young Muli leaned in close. Why don't we try being together? He whispered. Sunin was completely thrown for a loop. He was just about to turn and bolt, but Young Muli caught him by the wrist. He was pulled into a quiet little corner. Unin, just 3 months. Let's try being together for 3 months. If at any point during that time you feel like I'm not reliable, we can stop. I promise I won't try to make you stay. But if you feel like I'm worth trusting, then we'll stay together. Okay, Unin.